Over the years, the stares became more frequent. I'm not surprised, really. It's okay. You can stare. It's hard not to when you're looking at a 3-time world champion.
You're looking live at the 1986 New York Giants, larger than life, presented by the New York Post and the Paley Center. I'm Steve Serby. I've been covering the NFL since 1977. I covered all 4 New York Giants Super Bowl championship seasons, and I'm thrilled to relive with you that magical season when the Giants, in the media capital of the world, with television's mushrooming impact, Summerall and Madden, Jimmy the Greek, Musburger, helped the NFL surpass baseball as America's national pastime. And now I'm going to introduce some of tonight's iconic New York Giants legends. I always like to start these with Hall of Famers. So let's do Harry Carson. Hall of Fame Harry Carson, the captain of the 1986 New York Giants, their Derek Jeter. Sean Landeta, greatest punter in New York Giants history, 2-time Super Bowl champion, and I'm not sure if he's retired yet. Phil McConkey, the Rudy of the New York Giants, the underdog from Navy, who proved all the doubters wrong and is everyman, the New York Giants everyman, 1986 Super Bowl champion. And Leonard Marshall, who wanted to be sacked by Leonard Marshall, Joe Montana's worst nightmare, Gary Reason's 2-time Super Bowl champion, Harry Carson's partner in crime. What a crew. And it was great covering these guys. They were class acts then and they're class acts now. And
hey,
we're
Steve,
going to take some audience questions.
Can I say something before you get started?
Only if it's an insult.
It's not going to be an insult, but to my former teammates, we all know what's happening in the Meadowlands. We're going to call back the whole team. We're coming back. We're coming back to play. They need us.
Giants fans would welcome you with open arms.
I don't know about you, Gary, but I can go from tackle to tackle. I can't go.
I can probably make that little move there, Harry.
I can plug some.
I don't know if I get the sideline.
I tell you what, I think for $22 million, I can get a quarterback on the ground a couple of times.
There you go.
Come on, Leonard. It's not about the money. It's about the love of the game.
I love the game.
All right. We're
play
taking
it for
some
free.
audience. We're taking some audience questions. Post Plus subscriber Mark Rosen wants to know from each of you, what was that Super Bowl 21 post-game celebration like? Harry, you want to start?
For me, it was sort of unreal because every kid growing up wants to be a football player or an athlete and be a champion at some point. I'd gone through 10 years with the Giants at that point, more like 11. And to go through what I went through and George Morton went through, during the 70s, and you were there, Stevie, you were writing some of those unflattering stories on the Giants way back when. But to finally be there, to experience winning a championship after going through everything that we went through those early years, it was sweet. It was sweet. I know Leonard probably enjoyed it. Gary enjoyed it. Phil McConkey. But you can't, unless you've been through all of the crap that we went through as veterans, me and George, we see it from a much different perspective and we enjoy it, I think, a whole lot more.
All right, Leonard, how about you? What do you recall?
I'm gonna chime in for these other guys that's on this thing here and say this. We collectively were so happy for Harry and George. Those two guys were the heart and soul of our football team and of our defense. And the leadership that Harry and George instilled in me early on in my career is something I'll always cherish. You know, they made me want to be one of them. And I became one of them, just like Gary did, and just like several of the other defensive players on our football team. It just so happened that, you know, I was the start of it in coming here and became one of those warriors. And then right behind me in 1984 comes number 58 and Carl Banks, who becomes a warrior, and number 55 was on the screen with us, and so forth and so on. So there that went. And as that went, all I could think back in my mind was the journey was unbelievable, because every week we were counting it down to trying to deliver our best effort and a big day on a big stage for Harry and George. We really wanted that for those guys.
And Leonard, did you get to hold the Lombardi Trophy?
I got a chance to touch it in the locker room. I think that the thing that I remember the most about the '86 championship was the fact that, you know, what we went through in Chicago, and the game where we, probably the coldest game Harry and I ever walked out on a football field to play.
Hey, I'm from Buffalo.
Harry, I hope we don't drop the ball.
Yeah, we're going to get.
It made me think about all of that.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But Phil, the 1986 post-game celebration. What do you recall?
I recall.
Phil McConkey.
Sorry. Yeah. So what I recall was, you know, the euphoria of winning the Super Bowl. Like Harry said, you've accomplished something you dreamt about for your whole life. And Parcells said that you're going to never forget it, and it's going to be with you for the rest of your lives. And here we are decades later with these awesome teammates. But, you know, for me, the leadership, you know, that Leonard just referred to with Harry and George, I think was so instrumental in us winning, because to win, to be a team like that and to win a Super Bowl championship, you need everybody. And the leadership recognized, and what they went through for all those years before, all those, you know, tough seasons, they recognized that we needed everybody. So Harry and George, as leaders, made everybody on that team feel important. Even the lowest guy down below, you know, the punt returner. I was the last guy on the roster. In fact, I was cut at the beginning of the year and then came back a few weeks into the season. But they made me feel, Harry and George, as important as Lawrence Taylor. And
Well,
when,
you were.
when they did that, but when they do that, they get the best out of not only me, everybody gives their best, not for just for me. I wanted to do it for them because they made me feel so much part of that team that I would do everything I could, you know, to win and to fulfill their faith in me.
Gary, how about the post-game celebration, your memories?
Well, for me, it was kind of the culmination of really just a lot of work from, you know, when I joined the Giants in '84, myself, Carl Banks, you know, in our '84 draft class, we had a group that came in and I think really kind of solidified the start of what Harry and George were building and the other guys that were on our team. And, you know, we had some success in '84 and '85. And then, you know, really, we put the pedal down in 1986. And, you know, at the end of the season, you know, it was one of those things where we thought we should have won it a year ago, the previous year. And we knew that we had a great team. And I think it was one of those things that, you know what, guys, we do have something here. We know who we are, and we got there. We got that championship. And just like all these guys are saying, for me, it was just great to be able to, you know, hoist a championship trophy and say, hey, we did it. We really did. And it's going to be with us forever and ever and ever. And it's the first Super Bowl championship, the New York Football Giants. And I've been very proud of that.
Sean, your post-game Super Bowl celebration memory?
You know, I never started playing football until I was a senior in high school. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. But the reason I got kicking was when I was 9 years old, the Baltimore Colts won the Super Bowl V on the last second field goal. So that's the reason I got started kicking. And I remember thinking as the clock was winding down, I knew we were going to win, that, wow, you know, I'm getting to take part in something that I watched as a little kid that influenced me on getting a chance to be where I am at this time. And, you know, just to soak that in a little bit, you know, that was just for a few seconds, but, you know, then just to live everything you saw growing up as a kid on TV. We all grew up watching Super Bowls and the celebration. And the only thing I was a little disappointed about was there was no champagne in the locker room, because I was looking forward to dousing George Young and Bill Parcells if I could do that. And I remember I asked George Young, I said, George, where's the champagne? He said, we don't do that. I said, what are you talking about? Because, you know, that would have been fun. But it's just a great memory. Probably stayed in my uniform for 2 hours after the game trying to soak it in. And it was really great.
All right, I hate to be a killjoy, but I'm going to take you back to Chicago, Soldier Field, the year before, 21-0 loss to the Bears, and the elements and how that affected your punt.
Well, you say you don't want to be a killjoy, but every time I see you, you always remind me of my worst moment. So most of the time I get reminded good stuff, but there's always a scumbag. So that's you tonight. That's okay.
Thank you.
But,
Appreciate it.
you know, that, yeah, I just had bad luck on that one punt. There was really nothing more than that. I know, you know, one a big story, just bad luck. And fortunately, 37 years later, I get people still reminding me of my worst moments. So that's a good thing.
You actually got
Sean,
a piece
in
of
that
the ball,
moment,
didn't you?
I was right next to you, and you know that was an interesting turn of events. But I tell you this, we were close then, and we're close now, and we're still going to hang with you, buddy.
Well, I appreciate it.
You got a piece of the ball, though, didn't you, Sean?
Yeah, I
actually-
did.
You did.
I
Okay.
did.
All right. I'll scratch the killjoy moments. We'll get back to some of the great Landeta moments. But Harry, I'm just curious, what was that plane ride home from Chicago back after you lost to the Bears in '85, and how that impacted Parcells and the '86 season?
You know, quite frankly, I don't recall the plane ride home. Perhaps I was in shock or a little down because I thought that we could go into Soldier Field and beat the Bears, but we realized in that game how important it was to have home field advantage. And I didn't really think about it, you know, on the way home, but I will say this. When Parcells met with us in the locker room at the end of that game, and he said, you know, some of you may not be around for the next time. And I just kind of thought to myself, you know, this is either going to make us better or going to make us worse. And quite frankly, during that whole off season, I know I'm getting away from the plane ride, but during that off season, I got the sense that everybody was on board. And that when we went to training camp, even to mini camp, I saw a different attitude in everybody. And I have to say, it was the first time, and I played with a lot of teams. First time that I had played with a team that put their egos aside, and they didn't care who got the credit. They didn't care about how many times they touched the ball or how many times Phil Simms threw the ball or whatever. They just wanted to win. And we were out there for one another. And I'd never really been so much part of a group like that in my 21 years of playing football on any level. That was the absolute best.
All right, I need 25-second answers. We'll start with
We're not built that way. We're not built that way, Steve. You got to give us time.
Well, you're going to have to this
I'm
time.
just kidding.
The opening day, you lost to Dallas. Gary, what do you remember about that opening day loss? 25 seconds.
It was a close game, and really probably shouldn't have lost that game either. You know, we just got to have a couple of different bounces. Didn't go our way, so unfortunately, you know, we got, you know, we had a thump right there at the start of the season, but it didn't deter us. I think it just made us more driven.
Okay, Phil, the Seattle game when Simms threw 4 interceptions, was there concern about him at that point?
I don't think so at all. I think we had faith in him all along. So I not at all. It was a close game. You know, we were going for the winning touchdown on the last drive. We could have won, going cross country. So no, not at all.
Leonard, how about you, Leonard? The Minnesota game when Simms hit Bobby Johnson, 4th and 17 for 22 yards to set up Raul Alegre's game-winning field goal. What do you recall about that?
I recall Lamar Leachman jumping up off and landed, jumped off the bench and landed face down because he couldn't believe that Bobby Johnson completed that pass. That's the fondest memory I have in Minneapolis.
All right. Let me give you, while I got you here, how about the George Martin 78-yard interception return against the Broncos?
one of the greatest football players, you know, and the crazy thing is everybody thinks it was me. And I had to correct them. It wasn't me, it was George.
Weren't you running along with him?
No, I was too far behind him.
Yeah.
Taylor was running right next to him.
All right,
Lawrence.
Phil, your buddy Bavaro, tell me about that Monday night game in San Francisco when it took 1,256 pounds of 49ers to bring him down.
I just remember that game. We're losing 17-0 at halftime, cross country, Monday night against Joe Montana. And that play really sparked us to go on to win the game, obviously, and go on the rest of the season. But he was one of a kind. He still is one of a kind. And he should be joining Harry there and Leonard also with those gold jackets.
All right, let me interrupt for a second to answer some more Sports Plus questions from Kenneth Milstein. And be as brief as you possibly can. I wish we could go on all night, but what was it like to play for Bill Parcells? How about Gary Reason start that one?
Well, it's kind of a love-hate relationship when you think about Bill, because he treated everybody, you know, he respected everybody, but he treated everybody completely differently. But it was, you know, he's the guy that had something to tell you. He knew everything about everyone, and that was his trait, and that was to get under your skin a little bit and make you better. You know, because he raised a little bit of play in everyone. He knew he had something special, and Bill was a master of motivation in that category.
Harry, what do you think the best motivational ploy Parcells ever used was?
I think, you know, Bill was my coach before he became the head coach, so I knew him on a much different level. And, you know, when we'd go to training camp, he would come and tell me flat out, listen, I'm going to be riding your ass today. Don't take it personally. And I'm like, well, why do you want to mess with me? And the reason why he would do that, he wanted to show the rest of the team that if he could like get on me or get on Lawrence or get on Phil, he can get on anybody. And so, you know, he rode me and, you know, he rode Lawrence. It was one of the many ways that he motivated players to, you know, he knew the players who he needed to pat on the rear end, but he also knew the players that, you know, you could yell and scream and curse at and it wouldn't take it personally.
All right, the San Francisco playoff game. Phil, before the game, I believe you were standing on the bench waving a white towel. Tell me about that.
That's something I just always did, man. I think, you know, I would always run out of the locker room. Just I had all that pent up energy. And when I got traded back to the Giants in '86 from Green Bay, I ran to the other end of the stadium and, you know, people were acknowledging me being back. And then I started, you know, waving the towel at them, you know, after that. And, you know, went all the way to the Super Bowl, especially that game at home against the Redskins, the championship game. That was,
yeah, we're going to get to that. I'm going to get to that. But Leonard, in that San Francisco game, what do you recall about Jim Burt's hit on Montana?
Well, I was actually coming off the corner, and next thing I know, I was looking to go get him myself. And next thing I know, Burt hits him and wipes him out. Lawrence picks the pass off, and I try to clip the tackle that was trying to tackle Lawrence, and on the way to the end zone, LT goes. So that's kind of my moment with that football play.
All right, NFC Championship game at windy Giants Stadium, 17-0 over the Redskins. Sean, you were the hero of that game. I think Parcells said that himself. Tell me about the elements and your role in that game.
Well, it was very difficult, you know, as everyone remembers. It was so gusty, and you know, I was just fortunate that day to punt the ball real well into the wind and you know, help us get some field position, because Washington was a real good team. You know, it was only a few plays, 17-0, but our defense was amazing, and just glad I could help them out that day.
Do you remember the swirling paper flying everywhere?
Oh, I do. Especially when the game was over. Just wanted to sit out there and take it in, because you know, the realization that you won and you're going to the Super Bowl, and try to take all this in, because you never know if it's going to come again.
And Phil, you were instrumental too with a nice punt return or two. Tell me about how difficult it was for you.
It was probably the most nerve-wracking day of my life. I mean, gusts up to 40, 50 miles an hour. It's hard enough to catch punts in the NFL in perfect conditions, but that was really hairy. But I was trained well. I was trained well by my teammates. Parcells stood next to me every time I caught a punt in practice, and they put an undue amounts of pressure on me. So I was able to handle it on that big day.
Gary, you had an interception in the second half of Jay Schroeder, right?
Yeah, I did. We had a great game, and it was fun to do. And I'll tell you, Steve, that game in 1986, an NFC Championship game, it really, to me, is the most memorable moment in my NFL career, simply because it was a culmination of the New York Football Giants going to the Super Bowl. We knew we were going to go, and the electricity that was in the air in that stadium that night with the fans, and knowing the fans, they're all in the stands crying, hugging each other, and just, you know, we felt that on the field, and it's a moment I'll never forget.
Leonard, you said that, I believe you said that Schroeder was scared. What do you recall about that?
Well, I mean, you know, we kind of beat him up that day pretty good, you know.
Schrader, I'm sorry, Schrader, I guess.
We beat him up pretty bad that day. He took a physical beating.
All right. Harry, Super Bowl in Pasadena. Did you know Sims was going to be on fire?
No, far from it. You know, I thought it was going to be a defensive struggle. You know, Phil, I don't think Phil really showed us in previous games that he could be as good as he was in Super Bowl 21, but I'm certainly happy that he had the production that he had with, you know, passing the ball, and even Mr. McConkey got a touchdown. But yeah, he had an outstanding game.
Phil, the 44-yard flea flicker to the one, and then your deflected touchdown catch off your buddy Bavaro. Tell me about those moments.
I had never in that flea flicker. I had been playing football. I was 29 years old, been playing football my whole life. I was never so wide open in my life. They were so faked out. They had no clue what we were doing. We went totally contra to our tendencies. So, you know, to run through and, you know, have that ball, I thought it was going to get in. But ironically, Mark Haynes, a former teammate of ours, tripped me up at about the one, but I was able to get one later on. So it was surreal.
Now, Harry, it was Jim Burt that actually started the Gatorade thing, right?
It was his idea.
Okay.
I perpetuated it.
What was it like for you dousing Parcells after winning the Super Bowl?
It was sweet. It was sweet because, you know, that whole Gatorade thing started back in '85 when we played against the Washington Redskins at home, and Parcells rode Jim Burt all week, and Burt came up to me toward the end of the game and he said, you know, that Parcells is a prick. You know, we should get him. And I was saying, what do you mean we? He said, you're one of Parcells' guys. And, you know, if you did something, he's not going to do anything. If I do something by myself, he'll have my ass. So it happened just one time in '85. Once we started winning in '86, all of us knew, Parcells being as superstitious as he was, if you do something one week and if it works, you have to keep doing it. So that's what happened during the '86 season. It really did become a symbol of the '86 season.
Now, what was it like giving President Reagan a popcorn bath at the White House?
Well, when we went to the White House after the win, I remember Secret Service agents kind of sorted me out, and they said the president would like to speak with you, you know, when this is over. And I was like, oh, why do you want to speak with me? And I kept wondering, you know. And so they positioned me at the foot of stairs as he and Mrs. Reagan were about to walk out, get in the helicopter and go to Camp David. And so my back was to him, and my teammates were on the other side of the walkway, I think. And as I turned around and I looked, I saw this tub of popcorn rolling down on me. And so when he pulled the bucket down, there was popcorn still in there. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, I should get you back. And I said it out loud. And I'm thinking to myself, Secret Service, big guns, you're going to die if you do this. And so when I grabbed the bucket from him and I did it, I mean, it was just laughter. Mrs. Reagan loved it. And so I'm just happy that they didn't pull out the guns and you know, pump a few rounds into me.
Wait a minute, I have to go over something. White House Secret Service let Landeta into the White House?
Yeah, they let him in.
Wow.
We all got a pass on that day.
All right, listen, quickly, Lawrence Taylor, Harry, let me start with you.
Yeah.
30 seconds, your favorite LT story, 30 seconds.
My favorite I don't know LT. I know Lawrence Taylor.
Okay.
I refuse to call him LT, and he gets angry when I call him Lawrence Taylor, but I don't really talk about LT. But you know, Lawrence is the guy who came in and he made everybody else on the team better.
Okay, all right.
And he's just a super athlete, and we were able to play off of him. And quite frankly, we had so much fun playing defense with Leonard at the end, Lawrence, George Martin, Jim Burt. Those guys made our jobs easy. You know, those guys up front.
Did he fall asleep at Bill Belichick's meetings because Belichick was known as Sominex because of his delivery, or was LT hungover perhaps?
No, if you sat in a meeting with Bill Belichick, you
Can't
know
tell, Harry.
he earned the moniker Captain Sominex. He can put you to sleep in a big time way.
Okay.
And Lawrence was right up under him, and he would fall asleep. But anytime Belichick would ask him, you know, what happened on this play, he was dead. He had it.
In on it.
Yeah.
Leonard, do you have a favorite
everything that was
Lawrence
going on.
Taylor story?
My favorite moment with LT was in Dallas in the huddle with Gary. And Gary knows the story better than I do, because Gary was a signal caller, and the next thing you know, he and Lawrence are going at it, and I'm standing there, I'm saying, guys, Aikman's coming up to the line of scrimmage. We better get ready to play. But I laugh my ass off every time I tell that story.
All right, another audience question. Who was the funniest person on the team?
Oh, the practical joker to me was Stephen Baker and Mark Collins.
Well, give me an example. What'd they do?
Well, Mark Collins was just a funny guy. You know, Mark Collins picked on everybody. And, you know, the reason why he picked on everybody, because he didn't want them to pick on him first. You know, he had 7 hairdos, so you couldn't figure out how to cut his hair. I used to tease him about that, but he was just a funny guy, man. Mark Collins he was a spirited guy, and a guy that we needed as a teammate, because he brought a lot of laughter and a lot of enlightenment in the locker room.
Sean, how did you guys feel about no parade?
I was very disappointed again, just in the fact that as a kid growing up your whole life, you saw everybody have a parade, and you know, you're thinking, wow, the Mets, you saw their great parade they had, and you know, your whole life, the Canyon of Heroes, the great parades, and wow, we're going to get one now. And you know, what a shame that you know, that we didn't get that. And yeah, it was a little bit disappointing. You know, it didn't really take the shine off the Super Bowl win. Everything else was great, but just one thing that would have been great to be a part of, just because of the history of that, you know, to get a parade in New York City. I mean, that's been reserved for, you know, very few. And unfortunately, not once, but twice we got that taken away from us.
Yeah, Phil, you're media savvy. What do you remember about Summerall and Madden and Jimmy the Greek and that era in television?
Yeah, I just think we kind of rode that wave. They were as popular as maybe any, you know, duo in history of sports broadcasting. So, and they did a lot of our games, obviously being in the market we were in. It seemed like almost every week, especially during that time, you know, it was Summerall and Madden. So that kind of just enhanced what we were doing. So, and by the way, Serby, you know, with all your power in New York City, can't you retroactively give us a parade somehow? So, you know, you got all these Giants here.
I can do that.
We need one still. Let's go.
I can do that for you. It'd be my pleasure. Harry, were you, what were your thoughts about no parade?
I didn't have any thoughts because I was in Hawaii for Pro Bowl. So I wouldn't have been there anyway.
Okay, all right. Phil Simms. Phil, that was arguably the greatest performance in Super Bowl history. What was he like that day? Could you sense something special was going to happen?
Yes, because during the week, you know, even before we left for Pasadena, he was, you know, red hot. And once we got out there in the conditions and the climate and the, you know, the sunshine and no wind, I don't think he missed a pass all week, and it just carried off into the game. So, and I think if you look at the 3 incompletions, there was, maybe a drop. There was one I was totally knocked down. It should have been a 60-yard touchdown. They knocked me down, didn't even call a penalty. And I still think about that almost every day. So he was really on fire.
All right, each one of you want to ask each one. We'll start with Phil, while I got you in front of me here. What was it like playing for the New York Giants fans?
Especially that year, they were so loyal. They loved their team. They loved their Giants. They had waited, decades for us to do what we did in 1986. So to share that with them, we felt the love from them, and it still goes on to this day that we feel that from those people.
All right, Leonard.
I just, I love working with Harry, Lawrence, the rest of these gentlemen right here. Every day walking on that football field and representing, them and representing, everything that we had worked for in training camp year in and year out. It just was an honor and a privilege to work and play for these fans in New York.
And Gary, kid from Crowley, Texas to the Big Apple.
There you go. Well, for me, it was really special to be able to come to a city, and really have the city embrace me and also our team. And as our team grew together over the first 3 years that I was on the football team to what it was when we played in Super Bowl 21, it just really culminated all to a great event. And as I said about the NFC Championship game, being able to win a championship and have that forever, I think it was a great thing, and very pleased to bring that to the Giants fans, because they definitely supported us, and they still support us today in every way.
Phil?
Go ahead. Sorry.
What was it like? Did I ask you? I asked you about the Giants.
You already got me. Come on.
I got you already. That's right. Your answer was so memorable. I totally forgot.
Yeah.
All right, Sean.
They're so passionate. I still live in the New York area, so every day you see them, especially during the football season. And even right now, I had a chance to be at the game Sunday, and going in, they were also excited for the game, even though the team hasn't been doing well. And on that first drive, they cheered like crazy. I mean, even though things aren't good, they're still hopeful, and they're really a great bunch. I'm so glad I got to play for these people.
And Harry?
Well, my relationship with Giant fans was not always all that great, especially in the late 70s when they would show their disdain for the way that the Giants played and so forth. But they hung in there. Every game, every home game, you saw the same people in the same seats. And I developed relationships with those people that I would see as I was walking on and off the field. And I could get a read from them as to, how they felt about the team and how they were playing. And there was one woman on the 50-yard line right behind our bench. Her name was Betty Morgan. And when we were playing well, she had a big smile on her face. When we weren't playing well, she had a frown. And I knew to kind of get the guys, all bolstered up to go out and play harder. But she was my number one Giant fan. They were there when things weren't going well, but they were also there when we hit the jackpot and, became Super Bowl champions. And so, I see what's sort of going on now with the fans and the team. And, the fans have a right.
These guys are getting all choked up about the memories.
No, but, there were a couple of fans back during that time who threw some things out on the field at us, and it made me angry. And I confronted my team at halftime, and we went out and we played much better as a result of me sort of seeing how they were responding to our play. So the Giant fans are fans that loved us, but also we loved them.
All right, one more question to take you back to the Super Bowl before we wrap up. Leonard, how frustrated was John Elway during that game?
I think John Elway was extremely frustrated in the first half because, we went in with the mentality that we wanted to frustrate him early on in the football game. We wanted to take away the things that he did well, which was the deep ball, and force him to run the football. And it just so happened our front seven played probably his best football on that particular day. I mean, Harry was amazing. Carl was amazing. I think Carl had, 9 or 11 tackles, a couple of fumble recoveries or forced fumbles. It was just an amazing day for our front seven, is what I recall. And we took the deep ball completely away from their offense.
And they couldn't run on you. And you had 2 sacks, right, in that game?
Yeah, I had 2 sacks in the game, and Lawrence played exceptionally well. And, you know, and like I said, you know, I had the luxury of playing with 2 of the greatest linebackers to ever play the game of football. And it was just so amazing that they played and they didn't have egos, and they supported every player on our scheme in the scheme of things of our defense. And it was just phenomenal. When I look back on it, it was just phenomenal.
Sean, what are your thoughts? Where does this team, an 86 team, rank in history?
Well, if you look at the way we finished 12 in a row, so dominant, what we did in the 2 playoff games in the Super Bowl, and, you know, those 2 losses, you know, just by a few points. You know, we had missed a field goal early in each game that later in the game, we needed a touchdown to win, where if we didn't miss earlier, very close to being 17, 18 and 0, whatever it is. And, you know, I kind of agree with Phil that for 1 year, the way that team played, the 2 losses you had were so close. It'd have to be up near the top. If
Okay,
not at
Gary?
the top, near the top.
Gary?
I'm going to make it really simple, Steve. I think we were one of the best teams of all time. There's no doubt about that. We had the collection of players that could get the job done basically against anybody we faced.
Top 5?
Easily.
Leonard?
I think top 3, and damn sure better than that outfit in Chicago.
You thought your defense was better than the 85 Bear defense?
No doubt, because our team could have won 4 championships. If we could have stuck together, I think our team could have won 4 championships.
So you think your 86 defense is the greatest defense of all time?
I didn't say that. I think our defense was as good as, if not better than, the Chicago Bears. And I think our defense ranked up there with the Pittsburgh Steelers' great defenses.
Okay, Harry, where does that 86 team rank in NFL history?
I try to stay away from this kind of stuff because I was not there during those early years with the Kansas City Chiefs and Green Bay Packers. But I tell you what, we are one of the best, and I say top 3 teams to ever play and play as we did. We beat people into submission, Steve. You know, when I have not shared this with any of my own teammates, I felt really bad for some of the teams that we played against because I knew they were going to get their ass kicked, you know, and we played together, we played smart, and we were physical. And, you know, when you play in the first half and then you have the second half where, you know, you're leading, and physically we got after people. And I have to be honest with you, I felt really bad for some of the people that we had played against because we were like kicking their ass royally.
Did you see fear in their eyes?
Oh, you know, I always saw fear in the eyes of Ron Jaworski whenever the huddle would break and he would turn and he would look to see where Lawrence Taylor was. You know, everybody on defense, we all can say the same thing. You know, you see Ron Jaworski looking for Lawrence Taylor. You could see the fear in his eyes. But even with Otis Anderson, and I know Otis was on our team at that time, Otis feared us when we had to play against him, and he wound up running for his life.
All right.
Whenever we had to play against him. So,
hey guys, I wish we could carry this on for hours, and maybe I'll call you guys individually after we get off here and we'll just continue reminiscing. But it's time to wrap it up. Thank you, for Harry. Thank you, Leonard. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Sean. Sorry about the reminder about the punt in Chicago.
You're not sorry.
You're not sorry.
You're right. I'm not sorry. You're right.
You're
But
right.
hey, you're the greatest Giant punter of all time. That's all. That's how I'll end it. I've got to read a little blurb here. I'm sorry. I'm Steve Serby. That's not part of the blurb that I'm reading of the New York Post. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget to subscribe to the Paley Center YouTube channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button below this video. Be sure to support the Paley Center and consider becoming a Paley member by visiting paleycenter.org And don't forget, I'm sure I want you guys to sign up for Post Sports Plus if you haven't already, because we're going to give you content and events like this that you've never before experienced. Trust me on this. And thanks and good night, guys, from the New York Post.
Leonard, Gary, are you ready to come back?
I think I got
out
a
of
couple
retirement.
left in me, Harry. I got some more gas in my tank.
Let's do it.
Thanks, guys. We'll be in touch. We'll do this again.